Well, I think that this might be, and this doesn't always, between months, there's always a bit of a transition. But I think going from what we were talking about last month to this month is maybe the starkest one we've had yet. And to christen it, I want to say from Gene Dealman to what's Michael Bihn's deal, man?
I hope that lands for you.
All right. And the applause. Give it a couple more seconds. All right, everyone's back with us now.
Yep. They've all Googled who that is.
Well, if you watch Terminator,
you should know.
He's credited above Linda Hamilton, so
that he is.
Anyway, welcome to wait, no, oh my god, no, wait. As you guys know, I don't know how to start the podcast. So it'll either be the best joke ever told. Or something along the lines of welcome to Late to the Movies. My name's Ben, and this is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. This week, that movie kicking off a brand new month with a brand new theme is The Terminator, 1984's James Cameron's The Terminator. It's James Cameron month.
Big Jim Winter.
Yeah, it's Big Jim Winter. There's no way around it, right?
No.
It's got to be Big Jim Winter. My guests, left to right across your podcast dial. We got Bree.
Hello.
We got Sam.
Hey.
Yeah, you're right. It's Big Jim Winter. There's no way around it. I thought maybe it'd be funnier to go Big James Winter because people call him Big, James Cameron, but people call him Big Jim already. And so to do the wrong one, like when we said Steve instead of Steven Spielberg, just things that people don't call these people. I don't know.
James and the Giant Winter.
Yeah. And then just gets sweaty in a not fun way. So whatever. It's Big Jim Winter.
I almost thought you figured out how to start the podcast there for a second.
I know. I was slipping.
you almost figured it out.
Slipping.
And then it's gone.
It's gone. I already forgot. This theme probably takes less explanation than last month, but just in case, James Cameron, as of today, has the 1, 3, and 5 highest grossing films of all time. Hey everybody, it's Ben from the future, and while it was true at the time of recording that James Cameron had the 1, 3, and 5 highest grossing films of all time, wouldn't you know it? By the time this episode's coming out, it's more like 1, 3, and 4. So, I guess we could have seen that coming, but whatever. It is what it is. I don't want to be wrong, though, so I'm coming to you from the future to let you know. We'll see. It's actually pretty... There's a chance that Avatar 2 can overtake Titanic, but it's like, just when you think that's a possibility, Titanic's coming out next week again, so it probably won't catch it. Who knows? Either way, it'll be 1, 3, and 4. That is the correct figure now. All right, back to the past. We already did number 3 with you guys about a year ago, last March. I'll probably re-upload that just so people don't have to search for it in case you want to hear about Titanic. But he also did Terminator and T2, Aliens, Avatar. Maybe you've heard of it. And he's been, for a guy that is dominating it, he only has 9 movies. So
something like that. Don't forget Piranha 2.
Well, yeah. So starting with Piranha 2, and then we got this. Hired off the strength, not so much of Piranha 2, but for his mostly unused script for Rambo
First Blood
Part 2.
Yeah.
Which Stallone said was bad, but I guess it was strong enough to get him hired to direct this movie.
And strong enough to keep him a credited writer on Rambo.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, that's all context that we don't need to get into yet. So let's talk about, I don't know, you guys watch anything good recently?
Watch more Ted Lasso.
Yeah, we're a very video game heavy household right now.
Yeah.
So the actual watching of
Ted Lasso's in FIFA 23.
Yep. Maybe I'd like to say that's how I learned about that, but it's not. I've been liking it. Roy Kent might be a top 5 sitcom character for me all time now.
He's solid.
He's just
Can't
very
wait
good.
to see his Hercules.
Yep. Which is
man.
Anything you've been watching, Ben?
Sure. Not too many movies because I've been watching the Twin Peaks The Return Showtime miniseries from, I want to say 2017.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Twin Peaks The Return, or AKA Twin Peaks The Limited Series, AKA Twin Peaks Season 3. Really good. So I watched all that. There's 18 episodes. They're like each an hour long.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
I've only seen the first 2 seasons. I have not seen Firewalk with Me.
Firewalk with Me is good. So yeah, it's interesting because obviously he has a hand throughout the first couple seasons, which was originally just the whole run of Twin Peaks. But I think Lynch only directed 6 of those episodes.
Interesting.
And then he directs all 18 of these 25 years later. And I was sort of enthused to see how much Firewalk with Me matters to like the end game
I have heard that,
the limited series. And it also sort of crystallized a thought that I didn't bring up on the Mulholland Drive episode because we had just other stuff to talk about. I don't know if you listened to that yet.
I have not listened to it yet.
The most divisive movie that we've done, just if you're going by the people on that episode, what Twin Peaks The Return sort of highlights is I do think David Lynch is quite often just fucking with the audience.
Yes, 100.
It reminded me a lot of Glass Onion. The song, just in terms of like, you know, making fun of your audience for reading too much into stuff because he introduces like 40 new characters and resolves less than 5% of the plot lines he introduces in this series, maybe.
Yeah. So I didn't particularly. Yeah. Season 1 of Twin Peaks good. Season 2 I actively dislike.
Yes. The end of this felt a lot like the end of the original run, so the end of season 2, where David Lynch is apparently a lot more hands off, and it's mostly Mark Frost, who I should say gets kind of slagged for being, you know, too normal and not running it well, but apparently a lot of the weirder and more esoteric stuff actually came from him. In the original run of the series, David Lynch came back to, I guess, mostly rewrite and direct the final episode, and he same there, sort of just like went like whatever with a lot of the plot lines and just focused on Agent Cooper and Laura Palmer. Yeah. Basically the same thing happens here. So there's all these other characters. They just like, yeah, but the show was never about that. We're going to focus on these people for the last hour.
I know there's a scene where someone sweeps for a while. I have a friend that's crazy about that scene, and
yeah, it's a few minutes. It's a few minutes of a guy
just sweeping.
I
hate that so much.
It's not that long. It's not that long, and it's fine. And they're in the bar, so there's music playing. You can listen to the music.
Okay. I have not seen this scene. It's only been explained to me as,
it's not that long.
Oh man, this scene is so good, and I'm like, that doesn't sound good.
It's fine. It's
very pretentious.
It works. It works in the context.
I don't think David Lynch is a bad director. I do think the potential for fans to get up their own ass about David Lynch is higher than most directors.
Yeah, and it does seem like he recognizes that and wants to make fun of people who do that quite often.
That's fair.
Okay, from Gene Thielman to what's Michael Bihn's deal, man? It's 1984. Return of the Jedi came out last year, but now action movies will never look the same because here comes the Terminator. So I had seen this movie before. If I have ever actually just sat down and watched it, it's been a really long time since that happened. Maybe like college. How about you guys?
Yeah, I've watched it once. I want to say it was college-ish for me too. Definitely was on TV because I don't remember there being boobs in the movie that I watched. Because she was even saying, "It's like, we're gonna get boobs here," and I was like,
"No
I don't."
way.
And I was like, "I don't think." And then I'm like, "Yep, no, we're getting boobs. We're getting boobs big time."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at first it was subtle, and then it was not.
Bree?
I have not seen it. My dad was huge into action movies though, so I've definitely seen parts of the first one, the second one. I don't know when the third one came out.
They stopped using numbers. It's hard to track.
Yeah.
Right. But definitely I've seen an amalgamation of scenes from like almost all of them, so I don't know which ones belong to which movie.
Definitely seen trailers for the one that Daenerys is in.
Yeah.
She's in one, right?
She is in one, just not believably as Sarah Connor.
The newest one, right?
Mackenzie Davis is in one of the most recent ones from *Halt and Catch Fire*, Blade Runner 2049. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So who wants to give us a 1-minute plot summary?
I can do it.
Okay.
All right. No vase to speed me on this time. So
no.
it should be clear. All right, so there's a girl and her name's Sarah Connor, and she's having a good old time, and then it turns out that there's this weird looking giant naked Austrian man who kills a bunch of people for clothes, and he starts killing people named Sarah Connor, and she's like, "Ooh, that's my name. That's probably a bad thing for me." And then he kills her roommate and her roommate's boy toy, and then she goes to the police, and there's a guy from the future, and the guy from the future is like, "Hey, I'm your son's best friend, and I'm later his dad, but that's not right now." And then Terminator keeps killing people. He drives into the police station. He tries to kill him. They go on the run. Then they bang so that they can make the son that was predicted, and then Terminator's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," and then they blow him up like I think at least 7 times, and then one of those times kind of works, and then he just torsos his way over to her, but he stupidly puts himself under a hydraulic press, and then she hits the button, says a cool fucker line, and then that's it.
Yeah. You went like 10 seconds over. So you're Terminator fucker. Yeah, anyway. When we did the Vertigo episode.
Yes. Basically the same movie.
I've gotten some feedback that it was hard to follow.
Okay.
I think part of the reason is the person who told me that hadn't seen the movie.
Yep.
That's not our fault. Then Jean Diamant was the opposite. Not a ton happens plot-wise.
Yep.
And then this same deal for an action movie of the time that starts with an opening text block about it being the future, but don't worry about that yet because we're back in 1984. That's only set 6 years in the future, actually.
Yeah, from today.
From today, 2029 is the future robot war. Still time.
Still time.
Endgame
robot war also.
Yeah, exactly. The elegance of the plot in this is not something, like I said, I don't know the last time I actually sat down and just watched this, if ever. That's what really stood out to me. It is straightforward.
Yeah.
In a really nice way. You don't actually get the big exposition dump to Laura from Michael Biehn, the Reese character. That's the guy that's sent back from the future to help her until about 47 minutes in. In the first 10 minutes, you get that blurb at the beginning, but the Terminator, Arnold, comes in and kills Bill Paxton and takes his pants. You figure you like, here's Sarah Connor. Michael Biehn pops up and he like gets some Nikes and has like a little chase with the cops. And you figure out that the Terminator is going through the phone book killing people named Sarah Connor. And that takes like 13 minutes.
Yep.
And there's no dialogue of anyone saying this is what they're doing and why. Those 3 characters haven't met each other yet, but you get all this stuff. You get everyone's deal. You get Sarah's like kind of personality.
Yep.
And here we go. Let's go. Let's rock.
And it's, I mean, the beginning's interesting. Again, I'm try specifically not to jump too far forward. It is a movie that evokes a lot of, questions for first time viewing, because you're like, who's this guy? Are they both robots? Even if you go in knowing the plot of the Terminator, you're like, okay, I know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's a cyborg. I've seen the picture with the red eye. Like, you probably don't know like what Reese's deal is, and you're like, is this guy, like, they kind of don't tell you, like, this guy could be a Terminator. This guy's clearly from the future. When he gets held up, he yells, "What day is it?" And the guy says like May 12th or something, and he goes, "No, what year?"
Yep.
And the officer doesn't answer him because the officer's like, "Oh, this guy's on drugs," but yeah, it is a very slow burn, very 80s intro. I was trying to place it kind of like in my brain of like, okay, like I was born in like the late 60s or like the mid 60s, like, and this movie's coming out in like my prime. Oh, this is what I think is cool years. Like you've gone through, like you said, you've gone through Star Wars.
Yeah.
The Thing has flopped, but The Thing did come out like before this. Warriors.
ET's 82.
Yeah. Warriors has been out. I think Warriors was like late 70s.
Yeah, something like that.
So like the synth soundtrack still lands. Like everyone's in on, like, I'm sure everyone's in on the synth soundtrack. Yeah. Everyone's in on the dark brooding, like beginning. And that's, but like the thing that like really, really stood out to me, and this is also like, an 80s action movie thing, is just how absolutely grimy they make that city just feel.
Yeah.
Like you like you're literally sitting there like, man, I wouldn't go out to a club in this town. Like,
My friends keep trying to get me to go out to Tech Noir, but I won't do it.
what's the name of the? Like, I just love the what? Where are you? I'm at a club named Tech Noir, and in the background it's just literally just
Tech
flashing
Noir.
Tech Noir.
So we actually accidentally did a good setup here where we've both talked about something that stood out to us. Bree is someone who hasn't watched this before. Anything particular stand out to you?
So I've mentioned it before with like the Die Hard podcast. I don't really like action movies. This one I do think I like a lot more just because of the sci-fi element to it. I was saying I know this is an action movie, but I also wanted to categorize it kind of as a thriller because like I can't imagine like someone going into like this movie in the 80s and not being freaked out. Like it's not enough to be a horror movie, but like it's still kind of freaky.
Yeah, I had the same thought that I didn't remember it being like action horror, you know, and then it makes sense that he goes and makes Aliens, which is coming from a movie that was pretty much straight horror thriller and making it like more actiony,
right?
And him taking this what you would think is just action, especially like I feel like the cultural consciousness of Terminator is mostly about T2.
Yes.
Yeah, Judgment Day. Is Skynet gone live? That's from This Is the End. One of the best jokes.
We started it, and Bree was like, "I thought Terminator was a good guy," like, and it's not a wrong thought. Like I was sitting there having to be like, "You're watch the movie."
I thought it was a Blade situation where it's like, isn't he like also human, and then he's like trying to kill robots?
He's only part robot. He's a daywalker, but whatever the version is for robots. Yeah, I think I went through the same thing when the first time I watched this, or maybe as a kid, just because, the image of him is with the little kid and saving him and the thumbs up out of the molten smelting thing.
Yep.
And
probably
just
the most enduring image of the whole trilogy.
Absolutely, yeah, and maybe that and Leo and Kate at the front of the Titanic or from Cameron's career.
Yep.
It's like right up there with that, I think. That's thing that maybe it was when like the first time I went to Universal and they had a Terminator ride or something, and like, oh, I thought this was a good guy. And
right?
Like, no, not yet. You got to wait for that. And so I think those are good takeaways. That was another thing that I did want to talk about is it's sort of like the action thriller thing, and it really is just it feels a lot like Michael Myers almost. He just keeps coming.
Yeah, that's why
instead of stabs, you're blowing him up, but same deal. He just keeps coming.
That's why, like, going into it, I didn't have like for myself like super high expectations to enjoy it, but because there was a lot of like thriller horror elements to it, it's like, oh no, I can vibe with this. The synth is really good too. It reminded me of the Sega Genesis back in the day.
So good. Yeah, the music's great in this.
It's interesting that this movie ends. To me, like I'm trying to think of like a movie comparatively to now, where it's like this movie ends. Arnold's like not like the end of the movie, just like 1984. Like now, like this is the establishing movie for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger spends the entire film being a bad guy, and it's just kind of funny. And like I mean, he's been in Conan, at this point, and I think we looked up the Conan sequel came out the same year, as this. But it's just interesting. I can't think of and maybe I'm just missing an obvious one. I can't think of a seminal movie where the main bad guy like blows up. Like he is huge after this. He is like the guy, and like the main two stars.
I bet we can think of something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something, but it's like
Alien. People love the xenomorph.
People love, yeah.
Sorry, it was a stupid joke. Keep going.
And everybody hates.
It's a valid take.
No one likes Sigourney Weaver.
Musical guest,
Yeah.
the xenomorph. All right, we all remember the.
But yeah, no, I more mean just like the fact that like Michael Biehn and Linda Hamilton, like all due respect to Linda Hamilton, who did have a career, a solid career. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger is like the S tier person here, and then everyone else is way lower. Like Lance Hendrickson might be
also great in Aliens, but as is Lance Hendrickson.
Yep.
Just from a longevity and popping up in movies thing, it's probably Hendrickson next.
Does Michael Biehn get the Game Over, man? Game Over and
Paxton.
That is Paxton.
Yeah. Bean's one of the people that have you seen Aliens?
Oh, I think I have.
Okay.
It was one of those like when I was like much
I
younger.
have.
I won't spoil whether or not Beehn makes it to the end because you should watch the movie. The movie rocks.
Yeah, I just couldn't. I remember his character.
He's probably like the second lead.
Yeah, and
Maybe
Paxton's
Paul
the
Reiser.
Paxton is
Maybe the xenomorph.
maybe the girl.
Oh yeah, Newt.
Paxton is the comic relief guy.
Yes.
I think I was getting their roles switched in my head a little bit.
The same vibe that he has in his like one or two lines in this movie,
Yep.
where he's just like, whoa. Anyway, all that to say, so doing just like a little bit of digging, not that much, just Arnold's as good a place as any to jump in, even though it's James Cameron month on this, because it's
How
like
can you
said,
do the Terminator without talking about all?
Yeah. And we'll get to plot and stuff, but so Arnold is interesting because I feel like just like the Terminator image in popular culture is mostly T2. The Arnold's sort of storyline that I think if you asked anyone, they're like, oh yeah, he's in Terminator and then he blows up. He's in a bunch of movies before this. He wins a Golden Globe in the 70s.
What'd he win a Golden Globe for?
He wins a Golden Globe for best, I think, debut actor or best debut performance in a movie that is not his debut because Hercules in Central Park, I think, comes out first. Oh, it's Hercules in New York. No, sorry.
Okay.
Stay Hungry.
Stay Hungry.
Yeah.
Classic Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Bob Raffleson film starring Jeff Bridges and Sally Field that
What year?
1976. And then because I was in such an Arnold mood after watching Terminator last night, I watched Pumping Iron.
Yep.
Have you ever seen Pumping Iron?
I have not seen Pumping Iron, but
You
I'm
would
aware
love
of what
Pumping
it is.
Iron.
I would.
Pumping Iron's 1977. Like I said, we'll get to the plot of Terminator eventually. But Pumping Iron's a 1977 documentary. I'll tell you why I say that in air quotes in a second, about the 1975 Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia bodybuilding competitions in Pretoria, South Africa, in which Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a starring role, and a bunch of other people that were like big bodybuilders at the time that if you were into that scene, you'd know are in it. And then also Lou Ferrigno's the main person that's challenging Arnold for the title. Why I had like documentary in quotes is that it's basically like a work shoot pretty much.
Yep.
Royal Rumble's later today, so I'm using a wrestling term. But it's mostly a documentary, and it's about a real competition.
Yep.
It's not a scripted competition. It's a real like sport that these guys are training to do and to perform and get judged on in South Africa. But they added some stuff that's like definitely scripted. But the movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as like I said, it comes out in 77, but it's from 75. I think he's 28 at the time. And he is so fucking charismatic. It's ridiculous.
Really?
As a young pre-acting career guy, he carries himself like prime Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
He carries himself like Larry Bird walking into the locker room at the first 3-point contest and asking who's coming in second. Yeah, that's his vibe the whole time. And you're like, oh, okay, I get why they wanted this guy to be in movies.
Yeah.
And you can, he's like kind of playing it up. He's like kind of hamming it up so he can be like the villain kind of.
Yep.
But you're still rooting for him because you're like, wow, he's just a lot cooler than Lou Ferrigno.
I'm almost surprised he didn't end up in wrestling even for a minute.
That's the thing. You can definitely, it would have been like a 1-to-1. That movie rocks and it's free. It's just like, it's on a few different streaming services, but you can watch it quote unquote via Freevee on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And Freevee, as the name suggests, it's free. So
that's what like IMDb turned into, right? IMDb TV.
So yeah, something like that you can just like pop on. So that's how you do it through an app, but you can also, I think, just go to the Freevee website. So Arnold, the way people think about Arnold is it is pretty much immediate that this movie happens and then he goes off, but it's really more like he's already pretty famous in his own bodybuilding circle for like a decade before this movie comes out.
Yeah, he started bodybuilding at 15, won his first competition at 20.
Yeah.
Like he was established.
Yeah, so more than a decade before this movie comes out when he's 20.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, even without many lines, he still pops off the screen in this.
Yeah.
This movie has one of the best posters of all time because like the dude is a special effect himself. It's just him in the sunglasses holding a gun.
Yep.
And it's like a black background with some red 80s lines behind. One of the best posters of all time because he just looks like a fucking badass.
Where do you think it would, like, I don't want to set like a meta game, but like, do you think it's a top 5 poster all time? Like, it's got to be.
It's way up there.
Yeah. Like,
It's
Star
so
Wars
good.
probably won. You know, like the Scarface is up there. Like, you know, there's a lot of iconic Vertigo posters up
which made it real hard to make a fake poster out of. I had to use like a weird sideways one that had the pictures of the actors too. Yeah, anyway.
But yeah, it's just interesting to think about because like you're not wrong. Like just probably sold 1 million dorm pictures, you know, 1 million.
To tie this back to the beginning of the film, so we can actually go through the plot. The iconic look that Arnold has in this movie, the sunglasses, the leather jacket, I guess it's like an adjusted version of what he steals from the punks. Why do you take their fingerless gloves? Did he need those?
And also,
I think that's really cool.
How did all these things fit him? That's what I don't
Well, that's another thing, is he's at least 3 times bigger than the guys he's taking this from.
And they're not wearing, like, it would have been one thing if they were like, oh, it's the 90s and they're all wearing shirts down to their, like, knees and stuff. But that's also not the case.
Yeah. And again, having watched Pumping Iron after this, I know that his biceps are like 23 inches around. So he's not fit in the same jacket as Bill Paxton.
No, probably not.
And that was my thought. Why do these fit him? That's like, whatever, it's a movie. But why do you take the fingerless gloves?
Yep.
That's the one I got hung up on.
You think he loses them later? Because he's like, these aren't cool.
These are stupid.
I thought these gloves were cool, but they're not cool.
The studded gloves to match the studded shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The point I was trying to make, I guess, with Pumping Iron is that in this movie, you might get the impression that he doesn't speak English and that he's not charismatic.
Yeah.
Whereas that movie from almost 10 years earlier, he's super charismatic. And not only does he speak English, he is mentally destroying people with his words. So good.
Needs a face turn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which he gets.
Yeah, well, yeah, and in T2 he does get it. But yeah, man, cool movie. So we're in the present. Michael Biehn comes through the lightning and is also in the present. Clothing doesn't make it through. Too bad for them. They got to find clothes. He steals a homeless man's pants immediately. It's his first option. That's choice A for him.
Good line reads by I just want to throw out that guy. That guy had like 2 lines and he crushed both of them. Just like, hey man, you see a bright light? Like, that man stole my pants.
And he did.
He did.
Yeah. He put the correct emphasis on those lines.
Yeah. And I don't want to, it's 1980. Like I was trying to, like the whole time we were looking at the special effects and we were looking at like the practical effects and all that stuff. And you're trying to like put yourself into, okay, it's 1984, trying to think of movies that came out around that. Like the lightning effect was an interesting choice for me because this is 2 years before Back to the Future, I think.
That sounds right.
Back to the Future probably perfecting the time travel, like lightning, like electrical effects. So like given the past that like that hadn't come out yet, it seems a little weird to me because it's also the same effect they use. I don't mean, again, sorry to skip forward. It is used later when the T1 is in some bad times. So like I feel weird that like, okay, the same effect that is used for time travel for humans and cyborgs is the same one that is used for. But I don't know. Like, how do you, I guess there's just the beginning has a lot of effects. How, like, I don't know, like, and
the toy helicopter being
the toy. Yeah. Well, we were talking about that because, like, at the beginning I was thrown off because, like, when we're back in the past future, when they're showing the robot war, they have the plane, which is like obviously a model plane that somebody is like moving through.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird time, and I think the set design, especially at the beginning, and the and like how they handle things works very well. I'm not sure the special effects definitely don't age well, but that's not their fault. I don't know if they land, and I mean that in a way that I think people probably thought they were like crazy back then. Yeah, but it's hard to kind of.
It's been 39 years.
Yeah. But it's not like something compared to The Thing that we just watched that we were like, this holds up 100%. Like everything's great. That was 2 years before this, I think. At least it was definitely before it. I know the budget wasn't as big on this movie either. Like I think it had like a $7 million budget. And
Yeah, makes sense. First time
yeah,
director,
second one
not
has, like,
actually,
a
but
100 mil. You know,
Yeah.
like it is a very
a not actually first time director because of Piranha 2,
Yeah.
but the way that he counts it, I think. Yeah, I had the same thought, especially that first bout of lightning. You're kind of like, it looks pretty cheesy.
Yep.
I thought, not to skip too far ahead, but I really liked the stop motion robot.
Yeah.
Big fan of that guy. Think he looks
Oh.
great.
No notes.
No notes.
We can get to that later.
It's very, very Harryhausen once he starts walking around.
I do have thoughts on that, but we'll get there.
So yeah, he pops out of the lightning. Biehn pops out of the lightning. Linda Hamilton is. I always love like these small details that are like, oh, okay, that like I'm never gonna remember that. Yeah, there's an iguana in her house.
Yep.
There's an iguana situation.
Yep. That it is used for a fake scare.
Right, yeah.
Around
Yeah,
the
exactly.
existence of the iguana. And
I,
looking cute because it has its mouth open like half the time, just bobbing around.
I feel like, and I can't think of a good example, sorry, but I do feel like maybe it became like an 80s action movie thing that there's just like a weird detail that
Yep.
you don't know if that was a character choice or something.
Or like Linda Hamilton actually owned it.
Yeah, and
So
she
they were
just like couldn't find a babysitter that day.
Yeah.
So
She
anyway,
has in her contract that every character needs to own an iguana.
yep. So she goes to work. She's a waitress.
Oh, it's a terrible time to be a
Terrible
waitress.
time. Yeah, everyone's messing with her.
the kid. I loved the
It's a
kid.
good bit.
The kid gets. You're a child in the 80s. You're probably, I don't know what that kid was, like 10, maybe less, maybe like 7. You get an ice cream scoop. You have a scoop of ice cream for you being a bratty little kid and like trying to help you. You decide in that moment, I don't want this sweet treat. I want to dump this in the waitress's smock. Like that's gonna be
It's a
much
good
better for
bit.
me.
It's a good bit. Well, you know, it's really the parents' fault because then an adult tells them, "Good job,
Good job.
good job. We hate that lady."
We should be tipping you.
Yeah, that's what he says. And then you get a scene that I want to call out because it has a good joke in it, and you're like, James Cameron. He's already got the juice. When the Terminator is looking at the guns, and he's looked at a bunch of guns already, and he's like, "Let me see the Uzi."
Yep.
And the guy selling him guns is like, "Yeah, any of these are ideal for home defense."
Yes.
And he's got he's holding like 6 machine guns.
Which one do you want? All of them. It's like, I get to close up early.
Yeah. Guy's so happy, and he's like, "Oh, you can't put bullets in that." And then what does he say? Wrong.
Wrong. Yeah. I was like, you're not supposed to do that. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I was actually thinking that, like, there's no way a gun store just has bullets like ready to go.
They shouldn't.
For that reason specifically.
They don't anymore.
Yep.
Not
They
after the
learned.
Terminator
They
incident.
probably watched that movie and goes, ooh, that's a good idea. We've just been leaving these shotgun shells just hanging around.
Ugh, yeah. That scene's good.
That scene
It's
is
funny.
good. I love the scene early on where
I don't like when he kills the first.
so he kills the first Sarah Connor.
Yeah, that lady was just minding her business.
Yeah.
Poor lady.
Tough. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, there's like the collateral damage, like the number of people that get shot at that nightclub, the number of
A
people.
lot of death in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, they have. The lady that gets shot and falls on top of Sarah,
yeah.
and like part of the drama of that scene is she can't extricate herself from the pile of bodies.
Dead bodies that have been draped upon
Yeah,
her.
that's true.
I do love so Sarah Connor, fake Sarah Connor, but her real name is Sarah Connor, gets killed. The first of the Sarah Connor murders, shall we say. And her friend at the restaurant says, "Oh, hey Sarah, you're gonna love this," and then walks her over to a TV.
Someone's
where
out here picking off Sarah Connor.
Someone's been murdered, brutally murdered in their home, sharing the same name as you. And I think she says something like, "I knew you were gonna love this," or something like that.
This shit is right up your alley.
Yeah.
Side seal deliver. This is Sarah's vibe.
You know how you've always been talking about how you want people with your name to die a horrible death? Well, check
Yeah.
this out.
I think that was just a toxic workplace.
Yeah.
They didn't have the language yet, but Sarah would have told that to her friend, who
Yeah.
is also murdered brutally.
Yes. While listening to a Walkman after getting plowed.
Well put.
While and after. Imagine,
Well said.
I just couldn't get by that. Like when you're in a relationship where one person wants to listen to music during intercourse and the other one does not, the Sony Walkman.
Yeah, it's great. They probably sold a bunch of Sony Walkmans after that.
Another brief moment before the friend. Well, so the friend and the this is Sarah. This is Sarah Connor's roommate.
Yeah,
she is. There have
two
been
two Sarah
Connors have been killed because the Terminator is going through. Yes, there's the police are worried. The phone book killer, all that. So Sarah Connor is aware that they're coming for her, but she is not home. Roommate is home, getting plowed.
Every time.
All right, she is engaging in lovemaking with her boyfriend. And two things happened to me, it happened here, not to me. Two things happened here that I found extremely funny. One, as much funny as a double murder can be in a movie. One,
and it's played for laughs in the movie too, right?
Yeah, classic laugh. Yep. Very serious scene. She walks out with her Walkman to make a post-coital snack, shall we? And she gets this tray of like it's a smorgasbord.
The sandwich she makes is ginormous.
She makes a giant sandwich.
Yeah, if she had made
Peanut
a more
butter on
reasonable
celery.
sandwich, yeah,
A glass of milk.
It's a whole glass of milk.
It was the 80s. The Got Milk campaign was at its apex.
Oh, the Got Milk campaign just had its talons and everybody. Everyone
every
thought their
famous,
bones were going to fall off if they didn't have 3 glasses of milk a day.
Every celebrity had a milk mustache on a poster in your high school
era?
cafeteria.
Remember those days where Big Milk had us convinced that milk was a necessary part of life?
You need calcium for your bones.
Yep.
In pumping iron. Arnold says he doesn't drink milk because he's not a baby.
I like this game.
So he knew.
I love milk.
Yeah.
The second funny
Is
thing,
this an anti-milk movie, do you think?
she does drop the milk almost immediately.
Do you think he only signed on if there would be someone...
I must kill the milk.
It's like straight up Hays Code where anyone who has sex has to die. Anyone who drinks milk has to die immediately. So you know that it was bad that they drank the milk.
They cut to tech noir and just a bunch of people just hucking milk. Like
It's
No white Russians.
It's just the Clockwork Orange bar all of a sudden. They're all drinking milk.
Getting hit by canes on the head wearing bowler hats.
Yep.
The second funny thing that happened.
Damn, it's the same scene.
It's the same scene.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in violently into. Oh, actually, no. Like he's asleep. The boyfriend is asleep on the bed, and he gets woken up by Arnold Schwarzenegger house invading, basically. And he jumps up, and I think his first words to him are something along the lines of "I'm gonna kick your ass," or like I'm gonna like me and you, buddy, we're doing this. And like the sheer confidence of this, I mean, relatively strong looking dude, but this is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like this guy with a gun. Like this guy should be terrified. And instead he's like, oh, that's it. No one invades my home of my girlfriend and gets away with it.
Yeah. And he I mean, maybe he's not processing all of this, but the Terminator like goes to grab him and he punches a hole through the pillow. Which isn't a thing most people can do.
No.
And he's still like, I know I'm mostly naked, but it's go time.
Yep.
Well, maybe he should have had that sandwich
He
first.
should have had the sandwich. The milk was right there. If he had had the milk.
Yeah, if he had had the milk.
Spinach.
Yeah, but that guy gets tossed through a window and just really just beaten to hell.
Then we have the police stuff, which I actually really enjoyed. I think everyone in the police station does a pretty good job. Everyone's got their character. Everybody makes it work.
Makes sense. You know, this is, she escapes and it's the tech noir stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did skip. I'm sorry.
And then there's like the car chase from the thing first before they get to there.
Yeah, follow me if you want to, or come with me if you want to.
Right. We missed come with me if you want to live.
Yep.
Which is why we had to go back.
Okay, we're going back. We're in Tech Noir.
Tech Noir stuff's good. I like that Arnold's still wearing that stupid jacket that has like a lightning bolt on the back or something.
There's the very good scene of what I later found out was Danny Aiello's kid tries to stop him because like they established as a cover $4, which seems
and 50 cents.
And 50 cents.
Yep.
which seems very high for 1984.
Well, it's tech noir.
It is tech noir. It's not any bar. It's tech noir.
It's tech noir.
And then she goes into tech noir to ostensibly hide out and calls the police, and they're like, "Hey, just wait there. We'll get there."
Yeah, not for the first time that I was like, "Oh, this is actually like pretty cyberpunk."
Yeah.
I mean, tech noir. It's not a stretch to think that.
Yeah.
I doubt that's an original thought.
No.
But,
And then Arnold walks in, obviously unaware that he had to pay a cover. And Danny Aiello's...
he would have.
Yeah, he would have if he knew.
Yeah.
But Danny Aiello's kid is the bouncer. I found that out afterwards. And
he gets his hand.
yeah, I was gonna say, she says, "Hey, like that guy didn't pay," and then he goes to grab him, and he, without looking, just no look breaks his wrist, which is actually I appreciated that view.
Yeah,
Slow mo wrist break. Very well sold by that guy. And then yeah, he causes he does his mass shooter in
not
in
cool.
the bar. Yeah, very very bad move.
So even not counting that, I probably wouldn't go to tech noir. It's not really in my scene. You guys big club people?
No.
No.
And alone, knowing your two friends got murdered, I probably would have just gone to the police station if it were me.
I mean, if you want to go to like a public place, it is strangely well lit for a club.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people there. And that's what the police tell her. And in most situations, probably right. The other people were killed in their homes.
Where does she find out? She finds out about the murders in the second murder in Tech Noir?
At a bar.
It's a different bar.
Yeah.
That she
She
leaves and
goes-
walks to Tech Noir.
So that's the moment
She
that
dips into Tech Noir when she realizes Michael Bihn's following her.
That's right. I forgot. Okay, I'm like trying to figure out like why wouldn't you just go to the police? Because Michael Bihn's following.
Yeah, she's trying to keep moving. She goes into that and calls the police immediately.
And the police are like, "Oh, like don't worry, you're in a public place. Like this
Yeah.
guy's not." I mean, to be fair to the police, this guy's MO wasn't that. This guy's MO was killing people in their homes. So it's like, yeah,
Turns
just
out it was just a coincidence. That's where
stay
he
in
found
public.
him.
We'll send a guy there. Like it's a good stable plan. Like, yeah, you see the police officer, just walk over to him, be like, "Hey, it's Sarah Connor. Let's get out of here,"
Yep.
and then police custody, find the guy, see you later. But unfortunately, it wasn't a
Yeah.
human, it was a Terminator.
It was a Terminator. He comes in, starts gunning people down. But Biehn, before Terminator can shoot Sarah Connor, shoots Terminator.
Who doesn't die, specifically.
But he is waylaid for a second. Sarah can start trying to get away. Then Michael Biehn says, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yep. Great line.
Great line. And she does.
And she does.
Kind of. She doesn't really want to.
That's later.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. When she's getting plowed. When you can see her boobs.
I hope you just bleep every time I say it so that it just...
That would be worse.
It would be worse.
Yeah. So they leave. There's a good chase. They end up there's a brief lull in the chase where they end up in a parking garage, and that's where the exposition dump comes.
Yes.
And he says, "I know your son. He sent me back. There's a robot war in the future." She's like, "This sounds stupid." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Just go with it."
Yep. I mean, you see this Terminator coming after
Yeah.
you.
That's not a guy. And
It's a
yeah.
cybernetic organism, a cyborg, which we
It's-
did look up, and it was cyborg was only like a 20-something-year-old term at the time.
Oh, that's kind of crazy
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah.
It was coined in the 60s, so
Yeah, it's a great bit where I just love this exposition delivery is great because it's asking the questions. It's like an FAQ
yep.
where she's the question part.
She is the audience surrogate,
and
and
he-
he get your answers.
Yeah, and he is telling her about him and that he's a machine. She goes, "A machine, like a robot?" And he goes, "No, not a robot. Yeah, a cyborg.
It sweats.
It's cybernetic. It's sweats,
Which is
yeah.
important because at the beginning when they
It's
show
very
naked
sweaty.
him, he is extremely sweaty.
Yeah.
I was just curious, like Cyborg from DC, actually introduced for the first time in 1980, so
What?
before Terminator.
Huh. Interesting.
Because I was like, it's a similar look with the red eye like on one side and then the human look on the other side. Yep,
Yeah.
might have drawn attention or might have drawn inspiration from the way Cyborg looked.
I was trying to think of like cyborgs
yeah.
from that era, and like $6 Million Man
With the
kept
red
coming
eye
up.
especially.
Yeah. And I just can only imagine how many times people are like, "Oh, imagine the $6 Million Man, but he's coming after you. Like he's a bad guy." Like that's probably
Yeah,
what the
probably,
picture
yeah.
was.
I think
Especially
that
the
makes
boomers.
sense. Then another chase ensues. A lot of the highways and streets and sometimes tunnels of LA in this movie, they're driving around, and this is when they crash. The Terminator crashes. They end up in police custody.
And that they just keep showing different shots of the bike sliding and the car sliding,
Yeah.
the bike sliding and the car sliding.
Good stuff.
It was a good shot.
So
it was just kind of
until-
funny how many times they did.
So that's about the halfway point of the movie. And some people seem to think that the second half is a little bit slower. They don't think that. It is a little bit slower. Or that they
are right.
think that it's not as good because it's a little bit slower. And I would say, up until they get into police custody, it's a little under an hour, and it's just all go. It's like Mad Max Fury Road. It's just pretty much all a chase. Because from minute one, you know that Terminator's coming for her, pretty much. Even if she doesn't know until minute like 20 or something. And it's pretty incredible. It just zip zaps. It just keeps going. It's really
there is no fat to trim in that.
No.
Honestly, in most of the movie, there's none, but especially not the first half.
Yeah. That's why it's the first word. One of the first words I used at the beginning of the podcast was elegant, and it just is. It's like perfectly designed, pretty much for
very, very well timed.
Yeah.
And well paced.
Yeah. Then you got a bit of a lull while they're in the police station, and
they're yucking it up though.
they're having a good time. Everyone's making fun of
Lance
Reese.
Hendrickson, classic yucker.
He's great in this. He doesn't have a ton to do, but he's still good.
I do love the police chief. I think the police chief does a very good job. Like throws a your mama joke out like when he's walking away. I love the coffee where he goes to drink the coffee. He's like, that coffee's ice cold. And I put my cigarette out in it. They got a couple of things going.
Yeah. And I like that they've kind of been building up the cops for a while, and they're like, we got 30 cops here, you're fine.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Yes.
And they're not listening to what Reese is telling them. And then the Terminator comes, and he has, I guess, the biggest line in this movie, where he tells the desk clerk that he'll be back. And he is immediately back. And he's like a knife through butter.
Yep, just drives a car through the entire building.
And you don't really I don't think you ever see the cops again.
No, you don't.
Because
they're all dead, because he killed them all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting thought, because this happened to me the first time I watched it. Happened to Bree today. The I'll be back line in such context of the world, because it is so pervasive throughout all of our pop culture, specifically said in Arnold's voice, or at least in a deep register.
Yeah, sure.
It's funny to think it's kind of a gag line in a way. Like, it's cool. It's undeniably a cool line. Yes. But it is a line that he comes back, and your reaction is to kind of like chortle and be like, oh, fucking this guy, you know what I mean? Like this guy.
It's also it's like it's a rule of cool thing, right? Yes. Because it's unnecessary.
Yep.
He could just go through that guy.
Yep.
Pretty easily.
Yes.
He's got guns. He doesn't even need them. He could just it's like a door.
Yeah.
You'd go through the door.
The door might be padlocked or something, but that was definitely a rule.
But in the moment, you're not thinking of that, because that's what James Cameron has always had his finger on the pulse on. Is like, you're going to suspend your disbelief for this because it's fucking cool.
It's cool.
He drives a car through the front.
Yep.
The guy, I guess, dies because he gets his midsection crushed.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, definitely crushed.
And
I feel like he could have gotten out of the way. I feel like there was you see
there's a split second where he doesn't have to be pinned behind the desk in the wall.
I feel like, and the car, I don't know. Maybe not.
If he leaps straight up.
Yeah. He sees the car coming. It doesn't go, I don't know.
It has to come up some stairs.
It's got to go up some stairs.
And and the headlights are going to tell you it's coming, right? He's got his headlights on, maybe not.
No, that's true. Maybe he doesn't know to put his headlights on.
But still, cars were not quiet in the mid-'80s.
No, they were not.
And then he just cuts through this precinct looking for, I keep almost saying Laura Palmer, but it's Sarah Connor.
Yep.
If I cut out all the stuff I said about Twin Peaks, then that'll be a weird thing to say. Then they leave again. Reese gets out. I like when, there's a cool move that a prisoner does to unhandcuff himself and escape.
Yep.
The guy turns around for a second, and then he turns back. He just kind of smacks him, and then
and then he has to do the weird crab to
yeah. He has to unlock himself from behind his back. Yeah, and they get out of there. They go for a while, then they throw their car in the woods, and then they sleep under a bridge.
Yep.
Yes.
And then a little more exposition.
Yep.
is sprinkled in there.
Yeah, this is the part where it's kind of slowing down, and
it's like them talking about the sun, because like you have to find out, where the sun's coming from, and even though it's completely kind of telegraphed where the sun's coming from.
yeah, he talks about what it's like to be alive later, and how much is her son is, like you're saying.
Yeah,
I think this is the point where, and the reason why I didn't start agreeing with you on that is because I'm tired and I thought you were talking about the direction of the sun.
Oh,
like sunlight. It's like, like it's still the east. I don't remember this part.
No, the child.
And then I was like, well, in the Matrix, the machines block out the sun. Is that what you forget? Is that? No, yes. Sarah's son. I agree. This is when they talk about that. It's going to be like, yeah, sure. Also, they talk about Sarah's son. Maybe you forgot. Anyway, yeah. This is the moment when I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I see. He's the father, obviously. They're going to have sex, then he's going to die.
Yep. There time travel. I don't know if this is the time for it. There are time travel crimes in here, like from a like a timeline standpoint.
Depends on what fictional universe you're in, but probably yes.
My thought is that, so we live in a world where the Terminator is sent back in time to kill Sarah Connor to change the future.
Yep.
And then obviously, Reese has to go back to become becomes the father to John Connor, and then like the Terminator's thwarted. I don't remember enough. So like I don't know if it's one of those things where like, there's a crime in there somewhere. It seems like it's one of the classic, like I'd say Greek oracle perhaps ones where it's like, oh, you got to prevent this, and then you going back actually causes the thing to happen, like which wouldn't have happened other, like kind of.
Right, yeah, he wouldn't have been there if the Terminator hadn't gone after Sarah. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
So I think we're fine, but it just always in time travel movies, I always just think the classic one being Back to the Future 2. Where when Biff goes back in time to hand off the book, he should have gone back to a different future and instead goes back to his previous future, which doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And that was like the collective groan from the Back to the Future crowd that thought it did such a good job maintaining its universe. Yeah,
and of course in this you have like the fun paradoxes of Reese specifically says that he grew up after the war happened, so his son is substantially older than him.
Yep.
In the timeline he's coming from.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, it's telegraphed here, but it's fine. Because you're like, oh yeah, that'll be neat.
Yep.
He's had a couple flashbacks throughout. This might be the one where you see that he has the picture of Sarah that gets burned up. Which also has a really nice payoff that I had forgotten and I really liked at the end, but that's at the end. So there's this quiet moment where they sleep under a bridge and then they get a ride into town and then have another kind of like low key moment where they just have sex in a motel until nighttime.
Yep. Seemingly.
And then the Terminator tracks him down.
Yep. By pretending to be, Sarah Connor's mom, who ostensibly was murdered.
Solid. Oh, here's what we're missing in this section. He does his like scalp. He has the like X-Acto knife in his eye in the mirror, and you see the fake Arnold head.
Yeah, is it time to talk about the fake Arnold head?
We can talk about the fake Arnold head.
All right. So again, I hate to keep bringing up the thing, but like it's extremely culturally relevant. It's 2 years after that, and it is a practical effects marvel that we have talked about on this show, and everyone in this room has seen recently. I'm not saying that they should have hired. It unfortunately escapes me the name of the guy that did the practical effects for the thing. But I'm not saying they should have hired that guy. But I'm just saying they should have gotten a better person than the person they got to do this Arnold head. This Arnold head looks bad.
I don't know. I think they were limited by technology. Like they got someone. It looks, I guess, close enough for the time, but it's not like the thing where it's like they're taking the actor's likeness and then making it monstrous. They're trying to make it look human, and in that it's still going to look kind of off. And especially with like no computer effects to like edit it and make it look better. So it's always going to look a little janky. But I think my first comment when I watched that, it's like, did they get the Chucky animatronic for this? Because it looks so similar, but that doesn't come out for another 4 years.
It
but
does add to the horror aspect.
Yeah.
It makes it look creepier when he's got the animatronic, when they have the animatronic with like the metal skin under it.
Mhm.
Like kind of when he's like driving. I can tell when they're driving the truck, some of it is Arnold makeup and some of it is just the robot, depending on what they need out of that.
Yeah.
So, it's a reaction shot, or if it's something they need like Arnold to be like actually driving the truck.
Yeah.
But the ones in the mirror, it just doesn't look like them, and it's like jarringly not.
Yeah, that's tough. So yeah, talking about the thing where it's like it's sort of a likeness, but it's pretty fucked up, and they're inventing a thing that doesn't exist in real life, whereas we've been staring at Arnold's face for most of this movie already. So we are very familiar with how it's supposed to look. And you're right, it just doesn't quite capture it. But it's not I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Yeah,
I think it's good enough.
And it's interesting because again, it's going back to the, if you're born in 1963 or something and you're 21 when this movie comes out and you see this, does it even bother you? Do you just go like, oh, obviously that's a robot head, but like I don't care because like they can't, there's not technology that exists that's better than that. It's kind of like when you're playing video games in like the early 90s. It's like, this is the coolest shit of all time because you don't know what it's going to become. You don't know what you can get.
Absolutely.
So it might be partially that. Just I can't get myself out of my 2023 lens to look at that and be like, I think
that's fair.
This movie's almost 40 years old. Like it should be able to like get by. And it's not like I thought, oh, this movie's bad animatronic. It was more to me, the thing that kept popping up for me with this stop motion robot we can get to later, and the lightning, is that James Cameron is a noted perfectionist. And it startled me even early in his career as a second director, directed movie, that he wouldn't be like, we need something better than this. His budget is low. Like I don't know.
His budget's low. I don't think he himself has too much power, so he's maybe having to take what they're giving him.
He definitely doesn't have. I'm going to build an entire tank in so.
Yeah, in Baja California.
Yeah, weirdly only 13 years after this.
Oh my god,
he assembles that much power.
Seriously. You're totally right. I think it is. To me, it was just sort of a testament, maybe not. Maybe this is projection. I don't know. He's always had a thing for facial capture, right?
That's true.
He's gone all in on Avatar, and that is a movie where 85-90% of the characters now who have the bulk of the screen time are all facial capture animated characters. And so, he's just been, maybe that's why he's been trying to get that. He's been ever since this Arnold face came out a little wonky. He's just been chasing that dragon.
It's like the Chris Nolan, large scale city destruction stuff where he just keeps getting bigger and bigger, like things being destroyed to I'm just going to destroy planets and space stations now. Because...
Oppenheimer out this summer. I think that's
you really think about it. Christopher Nolan just keeps blowing up bigger stuff.
A football stadium, Batman.
But
I hope it's not the whole city next, Batman.
I'm gonna fold the city in half before this.
Yeah, Tom Hardy's in Inception. He speaks like that there too.
He is. He's going, I'm in disguise. I don't even know what that was. That wasn't Biehn. I somehow slipped back into Jimmy Stewart, I think.
Damn it, not again. We can't go back.
We're in too deep. We gotta get out of the dream.
The only way around it is through Batman. Oh my god, yeah. There's no difference between Jane and Bimmy Stewart. That's what I was gonna say.
Jane and Bimmy.
Jane and Bimmy. We have to cut this.
Yeah, that's a shame.
We can't do another Jimmy Stewart. We can't do impressions anymore. So I think the Arnold head looks fun.
Yeah.
But it's definitely James Cameron. It's not up to what you'd think is James Cameron's standards, and I wonder if it kind of drove him crazy at the time.
Yeah, probably.
After that, he tracks them down at the motel. They get out of there. We haven't really mentioned the Terminator vision, but this is another time where it comes up. And obviously, as well as the couple lines that we've called out from this movie, one of the things that is, I guess, probably like the biggest cultural maybe footprint, maybe like the ripple effects from that is you see that parodied a lot of places.
Yeah. And we were talking about that. Is that like the first time we were trying to think of like a time when there had been something like that on a screen? I was like, I think that's probably the first time something like this was specifically on a screen. I was trying to think of how like other movies from that era that had, shall I say, like a hunter vision. Because you know how like the Predator has like they cut to the Predator's like view is like I think Predator came after Terminator. Almost definitely has Arnold in it.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a direct kind of influence from them. Was this? I don't know. I can't think of anything else that happened before that would have specifically had this is a non-human villain's view. Not just like we have a camera and it's clearly the villain like looking at the cabin through the woods, from behind the trees. Like we know we've had that view. That view is ancient.
Yeah.
But I couldn't think of another one that had like a modified, this is a non-human look at what the villain's seeing right now.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, I wonder. We already mentioned Michael Myers earlier, but Halloween starts with the first person through the mask sequence. And that's 6 years before this. Yeah, I don't know that there was one that was like this tech-y, right?
Probably not.
And so specific to this. I'm sure
you see all the like kill, things come up in future, like all the or like some kind of vision where somebody's got like a crosshair and it's like finding its way over to somebody and then glowing red, like all things that
I think Community did a joke that like that's how Abed sees people too.
Yeah.
It's
especially the one where he's like negging people.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's literally that the Hillary Duff episode.
Yep.
Right? Yep.
But has James Cameron come out and said like big influences for him? Unfortunately, I didn't look that up before. Well, I can look it up now, I guess, but like I didn't know if you had it off the top of your head, because I'd be curious if like Carpenter was like somebody he was big into, because like you think about the stuff that Carpenter did right before this, it's certainly linked, maybe not one for one. I would say that Carpenter obviously is much more horror based, and like it's almost like I would believe that James Cameron would look at it and say like, oh, I kind of want to do what John Carpenter's doing, but like make it actiony, make it more palatable, for a wider audience.
I think people are going to assume that we're just pretending we didn't read the Wikipedia page on the development section on Terminator, that in sentence 2, inspired by director John Carpenter, who had made the slasher film Halloween.
I didn't read that, so I'm happy with myself.
Neither had I until just now, but I want to call it out so we don't get called out ourselves. This is talking specifically about, so after a dream Cameron has about a metallic torso wielding kitchen knives crawling away from an explosion. He's inspired by John Carpenter, who made Halloween on such a low budget. And Cameron used that dream as a launching pad to write a slasher-style film. The agent disliked the horror film and requested that he work on something else, so Cameron fired his agent.
Great move.
And then that's eventually the seed that turns into Terminator. So yeah, all that to say, I think that's well observed. I think those are a lot of his influences.
Yeah. And it's also interesting. I think this might be the best time to bring this up. What the thing that drove my after movie Googling was the dedication to Harlan Ellison. When they get done, especially it didn't happen in theaters, but it happens in the re-releases since, where it says like, "Hey, acknowledgement of the works of Harlan Ellison," which I just sat there and thought, why did the I have no mouth and I must scream guy get called out here? Because I am not a huge sci-fi reader. I will be. I know his name. And I looked it up, and I'm gonna say famous jackass Harlan Ellison, whose Wikipedia page is so funny because it's basically like he is like a seminal sci-fi writer. Also, he's a jackass, and then there's a quote that tells you about how much of a jackass he is, and that's his opening 3 lines in Wikipedia. So that's how much of a jackass that guy is. he basically got done with this movie and called him up and goes, guys, loved the movie. You totally ripped me off. And then James Cameron's like, what are you talking about? I had a fever dream about a metal torso. And he's like, nah, go back to watch those 2 episodes of The Outer Limits that I wrote 20 years ago or whatever it was. And you'll see clearly that I had 2 soldiers going back in time fighting each other and you ripped me off. And there's not much of a huge story there, but they have to pay off Harlan Ellison. They have to acknowledge Harlan Ellison in the credits, and James Cameron hates all of this, and it drives him up a wall.
Yep.
Because James Cameron, I actually believe James Cameron here. They're different enough, and it's not a crazy unique idea. It's like, oh god, you sent 2 people back in time. Yeah, like it's not like some crazy plot that couldn't possibly be conceived by anyone less than a genius. Like it's fine, and you could probably even go far back enough to do like, I forgot who wrote Arena. It might have been Isaac Asimov. I'm probably getting that wrong. It's probably embarrassing, but like it's also something like that where it's like, okay, we're just pitting 2, you're pitting 2 people against each other. In this case, it's kind of 3. But having them fight without really, knowing, and then you expand on the plot from there. I feel bad for Big Jim here. I feel like he should have. I'm sure it didn't probably hurt his pocket at all, but it is probably kind of a chip in his shoulder. His first big movie that he wrote that was a hit is mired in controversy almost immediately, because this is happens right away. Obviously, it doesn't end up tainting his legacy at all, but I'm sure at the time it was miserable.
It's probably just very annoying for a guy like that. And while we're talking about Cameron in control, it's a good time to bring in Gale Hurd. She is someone who we'll mention a lot, at least in the next couple episodes, who is a big piece of Cameron's early career, I guess the first half of his filmography at least, where he's eventually married to and eventually divorcing from, while still producing these movies with Gale Hurd. She's working as Roger Corman's assistant at the time. I have to think that's the first time I've mentioned Roger Corman on this podcast. Maybe we'll do some Corman movies one time. Maybe we'll do a Corman month. That'd be fun. Cameron,
Big Bob Spring.
Yeah, Big Bob Springtime. Big Bob Solstice. His name's Roger. What?
Oh, is it Roger?
Yeah.
I thought you said Robert. My
Sorry.
bad.
It's like, wait a second.
I still think we should call
We're
it
gonna call it Big Bob Midwinter. Who's it about? A guy named Roger. Anyway, Cameron sold the script to Terminator to Gale Hurd for $1 on the promise that she would only let him direct it. So he gives up he's not a super successful dude yet, but he takes no money for the script because he just wants to direct it that bad. And it was the right play.
Yep, it certainly was.
So the finale of this film, this next chase leads into the tunnels, leads into the big truck.
Yep.
There's car crashes. There's Linda Hamilton outrunning a motor vehicle for a long time.
Chaotically long time.
Yeah. You start seeing the skin starting to come off of the Terminator. You see the red eye while he's driving. But then he gets exploded by one of the... How many explosives do we think Reese has?
So the funny thing is that at least there are a lot of Chekhov's guns going off here. All well. He does a good job firing his Chekhov's guns. The scene right before they make Whoopi, they have...
This is worse.
Reese says something. I think he tells Sarah Connor that he loves her, and then he immediately is like, that's like it kind of washes over him. It's like, okay, I met you like a day ago. I had no I basically loved a picture. Like it all kind of lands with him in that moment. Like that was a really creepy and awkward thing to say, and it kind of hits him, and he gets up and he angrily starts stuffing pipe bombs in a duffel bag.
Yeah,
and
you gotta set it up,
and you're kind of just sitting there going, that's like 8 to 10 pipe bombs. Like there was a lot of pipe bombs, and I think they probably blow up like 6 of them. I don't know, maybe not 6, but it's at least like 4. It's definitely at least
throwing
4.
them out the window for a while.
Then he throws one in the truck, which is the one that explodes. He later throws one in the Terminator, or Sarah Connor. No,
he does.
He does it. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, also he gets in the gas tanker, and Bree immediately was like, "Oh, you think this thing's gonna explode?"
It does.
It does really well. And another thing for special effects, I had trouble figuring out what was real and what was fake fire. It seemed like they did a pretty good
It's
job.
a lot of fire.
It was
a lot of fire.
was a
There's definitely a
ridiculous amount of
person on fire.
There's definitely a person on fire that is definitely like a
I don't
flame
know-
suit.
I don't know how much of the fire around them was happening at the
real.
same
I
time
agree.
or real.
But that
It
seems
was great.
perfect. Like that is for you talk about special effects looking back at the 80s. I don't know how much fire is going on I don't know how much
Yeah.
big fire.
Nightmare on Elm
decade.
Street has a big fire gag also.
That's true.
With a person walking while on fire. A recent movie that I talked about with Vaz on a podcast that hasn't come out yet, by the writer Kevin Williamson of most of the Scream movies. I guess technically maybe not most anymore now that there's about to be a sixth one. Yeah. A new horror movie about teens that are secluded and people are trying to kill them with knives. And it's got some twisty genre subversion stuff going on. Who knew? It just came out. It's on Peacock. It's called Sick. I liked it a lot.
Huh.
It has a great person running while on fire gag.
Oh, nice. I like a good. That's got to be great for the stunt guy, right? That's got to be like
Ooh,
getting
it's Fire Day.
yeah, like getting the I'm on fire in a movie scene has to be like for a stuntman specifically. It's got to
Yeah.
be your crowning achievement. I would
There's-
assume. Maybe I'm wrong there.
There's one in Sick that is really good. I don't know why we're having so many stops and starts trying to just talk about the finale of this movie.
Sorry.
But no, it's my fault.
The
It's my
fire's really good.
The fire's really a big part of it because it burns off his.
It burns off his
hum-
skin, and
human
he's
stuff.
dead. That I think it's the first of 3 false finishes
Yeah.
we have here. All done well. I'm not saying they're bad. Just
yeah.
I wonder how many times like audiences actually bought in because you go in not knowing how long it is. You don't necessarily know
Yeah.
the pace. So I would assume that you think like when he blows up that he's going to come back.
Yeah.
But like it is still a cool reveal. Like they're on fire. Reese and her are hugging like, oh, it's finally over. And then he starts like, hulking out like
Yep.
of the rubble.
And that's the big moment. And I do wonder how that hit audiences because he emerges as a robot that, most of the time while he's in motion, that you can actually see his whole body. That's stop motion.
Yes.
There's
very,
definitely-
very obviously stop motion.
If it's a close up, it's not. You can see that it's
They have
somewhere
a
probably
practical,
moving around a
yeah.
practical thing, and that looks great.
Yeah.
I love its teeth. I don't know
Yeah.
why its teeth look like that, but its teeth look great. I don't know, and I like the stop motion. You guys don't?
It's so
It was
jarring.
funny.
It is fun. Yeah, that's the problem is that it's really funny
It's a little goofy.
at a
Yeah,
period.
you're like picturing like a Benny Hill thing.
Exactly at a really just a really tight ending. You know, like it's a good ending, and it's not a lot of stop motion in there, but there's enough. I think probably the 2 most egregious shots for me, and there was only like 4 or 5, but was the first one like he pops out of the fire, and you're like, oh shit, it's getting real now, and then he stop motion walks, and you're like, oh, what, that is kind of weird and jarring.
Yeah.
The other one is when he's going for the door. When
Yeah.
he's going for the door, that's a tough one too.
Yeah, I do like at this point it just becomes like indistinguishable from a slasher.
Yes, it is a slasher from now.
Where they're just like, okay, fuck it, we're just trying to run away from this guy now.
Yep.
We're pretty beat up too. We're gonna stumble, but we're gonna try to run away from this guy.
And it finishes where all
it's in-
80s movies end, which is in a random
factory.
warehouse. Yeah.
You gotta end in a factory.
You gotta end in a factory. RoboCop started in a factory and then also ended in a
Well, you need the factory in there. We'll do a Verhoeven month.
big.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing that.
I'll find my most Catholic friends to be on the Benedetta episode. Anyway.
Yep. Yeah, and pipe bomb to torso.
Yeah.
Knocks him in half. And
There's some good, this guy's chasing us slowly and we're trying to get away, but we
Yeah.
can't run that well stuff. Some real good stuff. Yeah, and he pipe bombs him in the torso.
Yep. And then Reese.
He tries to get away by throwing himself backwards down a flight of metal stairs.
Yep. And Reese bites it.
Yeah, it bites it. Too bad.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, oh man, at least it's over.
Nope.
But wait. I just love that they go for that moment of like, oh no, Reese is dead, but then the guy starts and he crawls over the body.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I loved that. That's a good
Yep.
touch. And yeah,
you think,
and I guess this is the fever dream that Cameron had, is the metallic torso crawling itself.
he must have loved that whole just shooting like, oh, it's all coming together.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I guess you don't really think about it, but it's half a body and it's crawling with its hands.
Yep.
If she could stand up and just run away,
Yeah.
she'd get a lot of clearance on this thing and be able to figure out what to do.
Yeah. There's a lot.
But you don't think about that.
No, and the interesting thing is, so this is, again, I hate to keep going back to other movies, but I have to.
Yeah.
4 years from Alien, 5 years from Alien,
Alien 79.
and it's okay, and it's a kind of. I feel like it kind of evokes the same like Lucky Star, like things there hitting a butt. Like it's kind of like it's not the same. Don't get me wrong, but it is similar. Like she's there. And the Terminator's crawling through what you later find out is a hydraulic press. I might have missed. They might have clued you in on that a little earlier than I missed it. But I'm
trying to remember if it's one of the things that it shows in operation, because it kind of does show you what's going on in the factory.
But yeah, she's clearly luring it in. Like it is like she's basically allowing herself to get choked by the thing, basically so she can get all of the torso in there to crush it. And then hits him with probably the best kill line since MacGruber.
Yeah, well delivered by Linda Hamilton, too, who is not, and again, because T2 is the predominant thought of this movie, most of what Linda Hamilton is like in this movie isn't what you think about with Sarah Connor.
She's not a badass biker.
But throughout the course of this scene where she's saying, like, get up, soldier, you see her becoming that person.
Yeah.
And then, you're terminated, fucker. And
yep.
The way she says it is fucking dope. I can't do it justice. Legitimately can't.
Usually movies, especially I've noticed in movies older than this, or not older, I should say older than like the 2000s. When you get an R rating, you kind of go all in on the swears. This movie, I think, only has like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I was going to ask. It's definitely got to be R, but I don't remember too many fuckers in there.
There's the famous Arnold looking for a line on his screen, and he says like, "What, fuck you, asshole," or something like that. That's a very good. And the man with the most shoulder hair in the history of the world walks away sheepishly.
They don't make men like that anymore.
They don't. Just the most
for movies
super of all time. Just that guy knows how to fix anything.
Yeah, exactly. And then the movie's almost over. You get the epilogue. Well, I guess the cops finally show up, give her a blanket or something,
and give Reese a body.
Give him a body bag, and then you see the epilogue where she's, I guess, in Mexico, and stuff that what we talked about with Titanic. If you look at this stuff on paper, probably looks pretty corny.
Yep.
There's a storm coming. I know.
Yep.
Works here.
It does.
The kid takes the picture that Reese would eventually have. Yep. That's great.
It's nice
it's
that
great.
She acknowledges that's a scam, but still gets a little victory.
Quattro.
Yeah, she haggles him down, but also isn't. It's a low price scam. It's an easy scam, but like it shows that she's more learned in the world. Like, it's like I get how the world works a little more, but like $4 ain't gonna kill me.
She looks like tougher.
Yep.
She's pregnant now. She's while driving, dictating audio log for John to find later in a bit of environmental storytelling in his video game.
Yep. And it's interesting. So like John definitely knew Reese was the dad when sending him back. Like, hey, you gotta go back,
because she explicitly makes the choice to tell him.
Yeah.
So
and she's like, hey, like John and Reese just talking in 2029. Like, hey, buddy. It's like, I need you to go back and save my mom. It's like, girl, okay. Yeah, it's like this girl you got a picture of. She's really hot. And bad news is you're going to die.
Biehn says that he volunteered, so
there's
that.
God, the having to like again, John Connor knowing that and having to surf that wave.
Seems like they were pretty tight too, so it probably like almost comes up a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I gotta watch T2 again. Maybe they talk about it a lot.
Maybe, yeah, that's true. It could be embarrassing.
All right, well, on a scale of 0.5 to 5 on any scale of your choosing, let's give this one a rating. We will put our aggregated rating up onto the Late to the Movies letterbox. That's the number 2. You can find it just by searching for members on Letterboxd. Okay, so who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 4.5. That guy stole my pants out of 5.
I like it. Bree, you got one, or you want me to go?
Yeah, mine's not too much of a bit, but 4 out of 5 German Shepherds.
I like it.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of good
A lot
dog
of-
movies.
Good doggies. They can tell when Terminators are there.
Yep.
I love that they're just like, yeah, that's a thing dogs do
Yeah.
for us.
And like they watch like humans walk by and they're like, okay, see you later, guy. And then a Terminator walks by and they just start barking at him.
Yeah. Well, this one checks out. That one's
Yep.
human.
That guy's definitely Terminator.
Yep. 4 out of 5 for Bree, 4.5 out of 5 for Sam. I'm going to be also at a 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 firearms that are ideal for home defense out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie.
Good movie. Yeah, I was happy to tackle this one. Good way to kick off the Cameron month.
What you got next in Cameron month?
Gonna try and do it chronologically. And the 4 that we're going to do, keeping in mind we did Titanic already.
Yep.
And keeping in mind that next month is Best Picture nominees, and I guess maybe we'll save Avatar 2 for that. We'll do the first Avatar, hopefully at the end of the month. We'll do Aliens next, and then in between, I think we're going to do True Lies.
Nice.
Yeah. Be a nice little month.
You're fired.
Yeah.
But not that one. It's a different one.
Up next, like we just said, is Aliens. You can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. You can email Noah at late2themovies@gmail.com. You can DM us, I guess. Mostly just look at our fun pictures on Instagram at late2themovies_podcast. That's on Instagram.com. That's most of the things I usually say on TeePublic. I think I'm going to make a special design this year for the ladies.
Ooh.
And it'll have to be legally distinct, but it will depict whoever we pick as a winner,
Okay.
I think. But it not so much that they can sue for the, 50 cents that I get off of every t-shirt sold because of TeePublic's bizarre rules. All right. That just about does it. Thanks for being on the podcast, Bree and Sam.
Thank you. Terminated fucker.
You Terminator fucker. No, we're not.
Doesn't work.